Hi, I just wanted to kind of review some things here. Obviously, I've been sharing some tips and things that worked for me in my fight against stage 4 lung cancer over a 24-month period. But there's a lot of bumps along the road. So today I just wanted to go through the 5 biggest setbacks in my battle with stage 4 lung cancer. Obviously, these are things that happened after the initial shock and horror of getting scans and finding my right lung full of tumours. Now some of these things, setbacks you face along the way, are to do with poor decisions or chance. Sometimes things, stuff-ups, turn into good things because you become resilient, you improvise, and you bounce back. But there are some things that just do slow down your recovery, and obviously would have a major impact on some people, depending on how their illness is progressing. So the first kind of setback I found was to do with a couple of factors, but basically because of extreme nerve pain, I could barely stand up, and I had to stop working in any kind of full-time capacity. So no work, no income. And that can often happen if you're in small business or if you've got contracts with ruthless people, because you don't turn up, they're not going to pay you. And there's a lot of that kind of style of work these days in our society. So getting through 3 months without actually any other income, I had some other layer of difficulty, which meant I couldn't get access to my money in my bank accounts, which is a slightly different affair, but it seemed to all collide at the same time. The upside of that is someone did give me 6 weeks free rent in a room for a while, so that was, some support. And I did manage to, despite memory loss and etc., sit up to 4 a.m. filling in complicated things to get some kind of insurance money relief. But yeah, it was an added level of difficulty for 3 or 4 months, right when the disease was its most at its greatest impact on me, and when my I was getting told I only had 3 months to live. So it was a huge added stress, and these are things you can't always control, and obviously for other people, when they've got decent employers or whatever, things will swing into action. But a lot of the insurance and things that you've got set up will not swing into action immediately. So, income failure is a big possibility for people with stage 4 lung cancer. The other kind of setback I came crystallised with a scan in late July, where I had 4 tumours come back, 3 critical tumours in the right lung and 1 critical tumour in the left lung, and an additional tumour in the adrenal gland. Now, there was a number of kind of setbacks that folded there in that 3-month period. So I'll go through them. First was staying too far away and being in some kind of social isolation. And that occurred because of the fatigue, not wanting to go out, the effects of chemo, etc. So in some ways, I fell into a trap there. And, both depression can come on through the whole effects of chemo and trying to get up and make your food and do your things and all the rest of it. But also social isolation itself can kick in these points when you've got extreme side effects coming on chemo. So that itself, or social isolation itself, was almost a setback. Also, strangely in that period, I also went back to a part-time work that was extremely stressful, involved a lot of toxic personalities, and I went too early. And I was responding to kind of pressures from that workplace, and obviously with income dropping from my normal sources. But really, that also added a whole dimension of extra stress that I really shouldn't have been put through. I shouldn't have put myself through at that point. I should have given myself some more months clear from dealing with toxic personalities. But again, you mightn't have those choices too, because if you've got to still work, etc., you've got to have responsibilities still going on, you've got to look at those things. Number 4 I've got listed as setback, just chemo itself. Obviously, my type of lung cancer is a particular subset. It's less than 3% of lung cancers, but it's characterised by often by chemo resistance and also propensity to respond to the new immunotherapy drugs, because the type of cancer I've got is often characterised with immunoblocking drugs. Now, in a perfect world, you would get a blood test to see if you would respond to immunotherapy, and you'd be put on that with my subtype of lung cancer as a primary treatment rather than chemo, if your response rate is greater than 50% to those immunodrugs with that blood test. Right when I got this, that hadn't been embedded as a protocol in Victoria, and it was just coming in on studies, immunotherapy. As it was, I was very lucky. After chemo, I got put on it for 7 months, so that was good. But so from that, I still look back and would say chemo was kind of a setback. Any initial shrinkage I got from the first 6 weeks or whatever was undone in previous months, and was partially undone with previous months. And then it takes months and months of diet and immunotherapy and other things to slowly get back. So I feel I lost about 6 months healing time there in sort of going up the wrong track. And related to this whole 3-month area, another setback, which was something within my control, was really dropping off on medical cannabis at night, which I thought played its role as a pain role only, and dropping off the diet too early when I was in this period of chemo only. So these all are some external things, some bad timing things, 2 sort of decisions out of those 5 that, I wouldn't make again. Probably the work as well. So probably 3 of these setbacks, if I had my time again, I wouldn't make decisions that led to them. But in terms of losing income, I didn't have control over that. In terms of chemo being the only treatment offered because I had inoperable lung cancer, that was probably a decision point that, I still was 50-50 even on the day of starting the chemo. I'd seen what it had done to other relatives before, including my mother. But I was taking all the risks for short-term shrinkage to get those tumours off my spine and get rid of the nerve pain, which I know itself was making me weak and vulnerable to the whole thing. Now, I'm still 50-50 on that. But, it dragging on for 5 months when it really wasn't, happening, but then I had a positive response midway through, and then after 3 months of chemo only, I had a negative response. So the main thing there is that I should have kept up complementary treatments and not eased off. Obviously, not in my control, really, but if there'd been monthly scans, I probably would have got off the chemo earlier and then saved myself a few months healing time. Now, these may seem small things because they're not dramatic, but I just don't want to give the impression I just, had 4 treatments, 39 lifestyle changes and health and diet changes, and then it was all so easy. It wasn't. There was missteps along the way. Some I will never know. If I had refused chemo and just gone with medical cannabis and diet and things that I was doing, maybe I would have had less initial shrinkage in the first 2 months. Maybe I would have had the same. Really don't know unless you control and do the experiments yourself. One thing now that I've read more deeply about cannabis with the material coming from Canada is that the doses I was taking at night were actually quite small. So again, if I had my time again with this knowledge, maybe I would have gone for heavier doses and dropped the chemo. It's a 50-50 type of arrangement. Of course, now the protocol is immunotherapy will be offered as a primary treatment, and my tests show them 100% respond to immunotherapy. So I think chemo would be dropping out, going to stressful workplaces I'd be dropping out, staying too far away I'd be dropping out. There's a number of decisions. Income can't really control that. But I know people are writing to me every day and they're in different circumstances, in different health systems, and obviously with different cancers, your selection of treatments can vary greatly. So it's important to get as much information, second opinions, as you can, and keep asking questions, because don't feel stupid about asking about treatment questions, because we do need to challenge the medical system to justify their actions, and also there are resistances to certain treatments in certain institutions, because we are often dealing with a hierarchy and there might be 5 or 6 people actually making those decisions. So, we need to keep asking for other integrated treatment. We need to ask for what complementary treatments. I always asked the oncologist, well, what do I do this month after a scan or a change? And it seemed like, I knew they would shy away from that or say, well, you do whatever you like. But I want to keep asking that question, because really we do need integrated health to really maximise chances of survival, and that means we have to keep asking the system to integrate that. It's not actually fair to be putting people in a position where they drop out of the hospital system to seek some other treatment. I think, there's a lot of variables in that, that you put yourself at risk. But again, with the blanket approach of established treatments and the blanket approach of some alternative treatments, they may be wrong. They may be the wrong course. So again, those regular scans, I suppose, are only a guide, and how you're feeling, how you're travelling along. But it can be very deceptive, as I've covered in other videos, about how these actions turn up 2 or 3 months later. And you can think, well, maybe I'm going okay, but with those 5 things going on, they all created stress, they all created impacts on my immune system, and the results were a greater level of difficulty in healing and a longer healing period.